Well, as we just reported, oil prices have shot up again overnight, a response to America imposing those sanctions for the first time against Russian energy giants. Ross Greenwood is here to explain. Ross, good morning to you. So is this Donald Trump trying to drive Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table over Ukraine?
Yeah, talking Ukraine there, of course it is. That is exactly what this is all about. He's trying to hurt Russia financially, and the best way to do this is with oil. The interesting thing, what Pete said there, is it's the first time there have been sanctions against Lukoil and Rosneft. And the reason for that is in the past it was in America's interest for these giant companies to keep pumping oil because it brought down the price of oil, therefore brought down inflation. Remember, Donald Trump is very big at the moment on trying to get interest rates lower in the United States. And so this is the key. Have a look at where those oil prices are right now. These are live prices coming in, up by 5.4% odd. So these oil prices of Brent crude have been down in the 50s previously. So you're going to feel this at home in regards to your petrol prices. You will pay in the weeks ahead. Petrol prices have been relatively low in recent months. Yeah. They're about to go up again. But then remember that the reaction from Vladimir Putin is also important here. He spoke a little bit about it. Have a listen.
This, of course, is an attempt to put pressure on Russia. But no self-respecting country and no self-respecting people ever decide anything under pressure. And of course, Russia has such privilege to feel and consider itself on this list of self-respecting countries and peoples.
Yeah, so one of the keys here, of course, is not just the way in which they've done this with direct sanctions on Russia, because in the past what they have actually done is imposed extra tariffs on countries such as India that were buying the oil from Russia. So extra 25% tariffs on Indian goods. Now, here, though, these are direct tariffs, but Donald Trump has basically come back and said this is really aimed, it can't go on forever, and basically wants to drive the negotiations over Ukraine.
They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say, and we're going to find out.
Yeah, and indirectly, we were buying oil from India as well. So
exactly.
We'll have to.
So this is where it's all going down the pipeline.
Yeah. So Donald Trump also giving a big hint that these sanctions can't last forever, Ross. It's not in America's interest to have these higher oil prices.
No, it's just not. So this is the big point about this, because if you consider again that American situation, it's not just, as I said, the inflation and therefore the interest rate story out of America and Donald Trump's rhetoric about trying to bring those down. It's also about the US dollar. Now, the US dollar, as people might be aware, has really been under some pressure in recent times. So you've seen record prices for gold, record prices for Bitcoin, record prices for platinum. And all of that is about people wanting to hold other assets than US dollars. And that is China, that is Russia, that is Brazil, that is India, trying to break the hold that the United States dollar has on global trading. So this is another reason why Donald Trump understands why this cannot go on forever.
Silver's had a little run too.
It has. Big run.
So this all started yesterday, Ross, but has escalated, and energy shares here definitely affected by it.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at some of those stocks in Australia yesterday. So you can have a look at these. Look, Woodside, our biggest, up by 4.3%. Santos, up by 2.2%. Now, these stocks really haven't done a whole bunch, but it's not just them. The ones I want to point out is Ampol and Viva. So they're the retailers and the refiners of energy. So that's where the anticipation of the market is that you're going to pay higher petrol prices. So that's what that's basically saying there. And again, remember, while we're trying to take pressure off inflation and the question about whether interest rate cuts are coming here, this also plays exactly into all of that as well. So that's pretty important.
Well, let's zero in on Santos there. It's our second biggest energy company. First, a $30 billion takeover falls over. Now its chief financial officer has been pushed out, but she's not gone quietly.
Sherry Dewey, that's right. So as a result, Santos has basically had 3 takeover bids that have fallen over. And the interesting thing about this is now Sherry Dewey, the chief financial officer, is gone. But as she's gone, basically there's no real conversation from the board. They chatted with the shareholders yesterday, apparently, but there's no real discussion about why she's actually gone. But it is suggested that maybe some of the targets inside the company weren't basically, sort of in accordance with where she thought it should be. And maybe, again, something's going on in terms of these giant takeovers. The last one was worth $30 billion from the Abu Dhabi oil and gas company. That hasn't taken place. It had to pass muster with the Treasurer and the Foreign Investment Review Board. But again, it is just interesting to see a little bit of a spotlight on Santos. Its share price this year broadly has been up and down all over the place. You can see when the takeover was on, the share price is up. Now those share down by almost 6-7% this year. And so I think that's a really interesting conversation to have about our second largest oil and gas company.
Yeah, that's volatile, all right, isn't it? There you go, ups and downs. Thank you, Ross, as always. Good one. We'll talk to you soon.